Welcome to the third season of the Connor and Heffernan Show. My name is Mark, co-host Montana here. We are excited for a brand new season. Sports are starting to get back underway. We had college football last night. We've got more college football today and tomorrow. NFL is getting ready to kick up. And then the NBA is a month away. So a lot of exciting things. So why don't you bring us in, Montana?
Absolutely, man. Well, it's good to be back. First of all, we took that little break. I mean, I think all shows take a little break. Undisputed took a break. First Take, all the good shows take a break. So we had to follow suit. But we're back, and it's the perfect timing. Like you said, sports are kicking up. And obviously, something that has been going on, it doesn't really stop. NFL, there's always something going on. There's always some news somewhere. And now we're back to the right before the season news. We're right there, bro. We are under 2 weeks away from pro football starting back up and having football until February. And I am so excited for that, man. It has been overdue. And with
Dude,
that,
I'm so dang excited.
it's been
Football
so long.
season's my favorite time of the year.
Same, bro. You can't get, and then the best part is you get the other sports that run into it too. So we have a bunch of sports, man. Come December, November, December, man, we can't ask for anything better than that. So it's a great
Yep.
time. And with that, every single season, ESPN and NFL release I'm going to say notorious list because usually I don't agree that much with it. I would say a lot of people usually have something to say about it. It's the top 100 list. We've got to talk about it. We're not going to go through the top 100. That'd be the whole episode. I know y'all don't want to hear us talk about, all the way down to 100. I don't think that's what we're going to do. But we are going to go the top 10 in the NFL. I'm going to read them down, and then we're going to give you guys our thoughts on who belongs in the top 10, who doesn't. So we're going to start at 10. Starting at 10, we got defensive end Chris Jones for the Kansas City Chiefs coming in at number 10. Come on. I mean, here's the thing. The Chiefs have high stakes right now. They're pretty high up there because of what they just accomplished. Everything goes up when you win a championship, so I understand that a little bit. Coming at number 9, we have linebacker for the Dallas Cowboys, Micah Parsons. Again, solid player. Makes sense that he's on this list. Number 8, we've got quarterback for the Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen. Side note, one of my biggest flexes, I saw him at Wyoming before anyone really, I think, knew that he was going to be that good. I saw him at Wyoming. I don't know who they played, and he was awesome. He was electric on that
Yep.
field, and he continued that in the NFL, so you can't ask for much more than that. Coming in at number 7, we have Tyreek Hill, the wide receiver for the Miami Dolphins. At 6, we have Joe Burrow, Cincinnati Bengals quarterback. At 5, we have Kansas City Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce. Coming in at 4, we have defensive end for the 49ers, Nick Bosa. At 3, Jalen Hurts, Philadelphia Eagles quarterback. Almost got it done. So close. Man, I was rooting for those guys in that Super Bowl.
Mhm.
Coming in at number 2, Justin Jefferson, Minnesota Vikings wide receiver. And I bet we all know who number 1 is. And no, Raiders fans, it's not Jimmy G. I wish Jimmy G was looked at as the number 1 quarterback in the league, but I don't think he's even looked at as a top 10. It should come as no surprise. It's MVP, probably the best quarterback that we're going to see in the league right now, Patrick Mahomes. So that's our top 10 list, bro. What are your thoughts? I know I have my thoughts, but I want to hear yours first.
I agree with most of them outside of the Justin Jefferson thing. Um, Also, the Chris Jones thing is interesting because obviously he's going through his little holdout right now. There's no guarantee he's going to be ready to suit up by week 1. Um, he's going around thinking that he's not making enough money. He's like, my $20 million a year is not enough, which is BS. We all know that. Um, but but yeah, I think it's a pretty good list. And having Patrick Mahomes up top is very fitting because he's accomplished more things as a quarterback than any of the other quarterbacks in the league right now. He's one of the more consistent figures in the sport. And you go through names like Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow absolutely deserves to be up there after carrying the Bengals to back-to-back playoffs. So, yeah, it's a really, really good list. I think we're going to see a lot of parity this year. I think we might see a few more players sneak up. as the season goes along. It should be very exciting, man. What are your thoughts?
So I'm with you. I don't have a problem with most of the list. A lot of the list is solid. Justin Jefferson at 2, no, I do not have Justin Jefferson at my 2. He is the best wide receiver in the league at the moment. I would have him closer to that 9 or 10 spot. I would have him
Yeah.
farther down on that list. If I'm being completely honest, Joe Burrow should be higher on the list. I have Joe Burrow as my number 3. For my top 3, it's all quarterbacks. 1 is Mahomes, 2 is going to be Jalen Hurts, and 3 is going to be Joe Burrow.
I agree.
That's what I'm buying into. And then honestly, Nick Bosa at 4, I don't have a huge problem with that. I think he's a solid player. He has been the life behind that San Francisco defense, and he has been a huge reason that they are where they are today. We always look at that offense. We've got to look at that defense. That is a huge driving factor. It is almost something that won them a Super Bowl. They had a defense that brought them that team. People forget about Mahomes' first Super Bowl against the 49ers. That was a solid team. Travis Kelce at 5. Look, he's great. But again, the stock for Kansas City players went way up after the Super Bowl, as it always does. If the Eagles had won the Super Bowl, I'm pretty sure we would see at least 2 or 3 Eagles on the top 10 list. It's all about that. That's what it comes down to at the end of the day. Is Travis Kelce the best tight end? Yes, but I have him a little bit lower on that list. And I'm going to say one more player that I have a little bit higher up, and that's Micah Parsons. Okay, I hate talking about the Cowboys. Don't get me wrong. I am a Cowboys hater. I tune into Undisputed because something about it. I hate the Cowboys, but something about hearing them talk, I don't know what it is. It's a guilty pleasure. I don't know what it is, but I hate the Cowboys.
Mhm.
Super excited for the season to start so that I can tune into Undisputed and hear Skip Bayless talk about how they lose and they blew it and see him slam the desk. I'm ready for that. That's what I'm waiting for. Micah Parsons, though, by far belongs in the top 6. Micah Parsons being 9 is criminal, in my opinion. I think Micah Parsons belongs up in that top 6. But this list as a whole, I don't have an issue with. I can see all of these players being on this list. I think it makes sense. Mahomes, I mean, we just said it. You have no issues with Mahomes being 1, do you?
No, absolutely not. I mean, he's done more things as a quarterback than a lot of other quarterbacks have done. He's only been in the league for a few short years, and he already has 2 Super Bowl championships and 2 MVPs. So he's been incredible. He can go down as one of the best quarterbacks to play the game of all time.
And he will.
It's incredible.
He will. And also, I mean, we're talking about a guy that already has the same amount of Super Bowls as Peyton Manning.
Yeah. And
Peyton Manning statistically has more than Mahomes, obviously, because he played a long, successful career. But Mahomes is more successful than some of the quarterbacks that we talk about as being in the top 10 of all time. So Mahomes has solidified himself. I would say he's already in the top 5. That's a hot take, maybe. But I would say skill-wise, he's in the top 5, and he'll solidify himself in that when he retires, because I have him winning 3 to 4 championships with ease. Are they all going to be with Kansas? I don't know if they're all going to be with Kansas City. I don't know if Kansas City, he's got that 10-year contract and they just won. They made it look easy, but it's not going to be this next season is not going to be a cakewalk. And speaking of that, we're going to move on and talk about week 1 and actually opening night of the NFL. The Chiefs, in my opinion, don't have a cakewalk to start the season. We're going to go through each week 1 matchup and just give our predictions. We'll just go one at a time and go through the list, starting with Thursday night football, September 7th. We are under 10 days away from football. We are right here, bro. This is it, man. We are right there. Thursday night football. If you're in Hawaii, it's Thursday 2:20 p.m. football. I'm not going to get used to that ever. But we've got the Detroit Lions versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Who do you have taking that one?
It's an interesting matchup. The Lions were really tough. I think having Goff as their quarterback has really helped them build up. Their defense is pretty good. They've got good skill players. I still got the Chiefs pulling it out, but I think it's going to be close. Give me the Chiefs 31-24. I think the Lions are really close to breaking through. I don't think they're going to quite break through in week 1.
Good take. See, I've got to go with the other side, not just because we want to go both sides, but because I do think that this Lions team, A, it's their time to shine, and B, I think Goff, yeah, he didn't win a championship for the Rams. He hasn't won a championship for the Lions, but he is a better quarterback than Matthew Stafford.
Oh yeah.
Top to bottom, he is a better quarterback. The Rams won a Super Bowl not because of Stafford. They won because of Stafford and the guys that were around Stafford. So
Yeah.
Goff is a better quarterback. He's proven that. He's played great. I think this is the season that the Lions potentially make a Cinderella playoff run. I say Cinderella because when can we say the Lions made a playoff run last? We can't. They've not made a playoff run for so long, even when they've had talent. Megatron, Sue, Ndamukong Suh, one of the best defensive players to come out of Nebraska. When they had those guys, they still were not going the distance. This
No.
Lions team is closer. I have them knocking off a Chiefs team that I think is going to play lazy, and I think they're not going to be. I think they're going to get their heads knocked off in week one. I've got it being a close game. Now, I'm not going to speak crazy and say Lions 21-0 because that'd be crazy. I can't say that. But I am going to say the Lions are going to win 21-17, and that's going to be that final score of that first game for them. Talking about that second game up, skipping over to Sunday, we have the Bengals versus the Browns. I'm excited for this matchup as well. What do you have happening in this one?
I really like what Zach Taylor's putting together with that Bengals team. Really good skill players. They've got Joe Burrow as their quarterback, who is easily going to be an MVP candidate at the end of the year if he stays healthy. The Browns have a lot of things up in the air at this point. We don't know what this Browns team is going to be. I'm going to go with the proven commodity here. I'm going to go with the Bengals winning and give me a score of 35-20. I think Joe Burrow is going to put up a lot of yards through the air. Yeah, it should be a fun one.
Yeah, good take. I definitely share the same thing with the Bengals being the team that comes out on top. I think the Browns are a team that might have more success this season. You never know. It's just it's been such a whirlwind for that team. So many controversies, so many problems. It's just hard to see them coming out of that completely. But I do have them having a little bit of an improved season. But I still have the Bengals winning, and I have the Bengals stomping them. I have the Bengals winning 21-7. It's not a blowout. It's only a couple touchdowns, but I have them controlling the game. I have the Browns maybe scoring early on, showing some flashes, and then I have the Bengals controlling the rest of the game and winning 21-7. Looking at that next game, we have an interesting one again. Another interesting one. We've got the Texans versus the Ravens. What's your take on this one?
The Ravens, I think, are a dark horse Super Bowl team this year. Again, it's kind of an easy pick for me. I think the Ravens come out on top. I think Lamar Jackson's going to have himself a big game. He's going to utilize his legs just a little bit more. Give me the Ravens 31-27.
Yeah, good. I think this Texans team is going to be tougher. I think this Texans team is going to show up. They've got more talent, obviously, in the QB room this year. They've got more talent overall. I don't think they're going to throw games. They didn't throw games, but the Texans, I mean, they wanted that pick. They definitely were tanking, if you will. I mean, tanking's more of an NBA term, but I would say they were, I mean, you saw the footage of the coach getting taught. I mean, it's not like he was getting discouraged to win, but you get how that there is a certain vibe in the air when the season's gone and you want to get that pick. So I think it's going to be different. Now that they got that pick, I think they're going to build. I don't really like the concept of tanking, but I do think that is a concept that is just how it goes. And so I think the Texans have arrived a little bit more, but I still think that they're going to be a little slow to start. And I think the Ravens, honestly, in my opinion, are going to be one of the better teams in the AFC. I think they're going to surprise a lot of people. I think
they're going to surprise a lot of people too. Sorry for interrupting you.
No, go ahead, bro.
Their defense is sneakily very good. I think their offense is going to be really good. I do think the Texans are going to be very much improved, though, because they do have a lot of talent on both sides of the ball. I still think they're a year or two away from maybe making a push to the playoffs, something that the Texans fans haven't been able to say in years. I do like the CJ Stroud pick at quarterback. I think CJ Stroud is going to open up another element at quarterback that they may have not seen in the other quarterbacks that they've had in years past. Plus, they've got a pretty decent running back room. They've got a good wide receiver room. The Houston Texans might be able to make a push if CJ Stroud can come out and play like a rookie of the year candidate, and their defense can show up. But I don't drawing the Ravens in week 1, that's a tough draw. Because everybody, like you watch anybody on ESPN right now, they are super high on the Baltimore Ravens and they think they can make serious noise. And I think they're right. It's not an easy game. I do think the Houston Texans will put up some points, because I think it'll take a little bit for that Ravens defense to get going, but I think the Ravens offense is just too potent.
And I'm with you. I think I think that Stroud can play like that. We talked last season about him, and I was a little bit. We both were kind of like, but I think he'll show up. I think that it'll be a close game. I do think that it'll only be a touchdown. I think the Ravens will win 28-21, but I think the Ravens will control the game more than what a touchdown shows. I think we'll see what that team is really going to be. Moving on, we've got the Buccaneers versus the Vikings. Man, this is an interesting one for a lot of reasons. What's your take on that one?
Very interesting because you got Baker Mayfield at quarterback with the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers still have a lot of talent. Yeah, they finished under 500 last year, but they've got a younger guy in Baker Mayfield at the helm at quarterback. They've got a pretty decent defense. They retained a lot of their defensive talent. The Vikings, who knows what to think about them? I mean, they've got Justin Jefferson outside, which is a viable weapon. This is another really close game, and I think it's going to be kind of one of those really low scoring games. Give me the Buccaneers winning 17-14 on a late game field goal.
Oh man, I have the same exact take, but the other team winning. So we don't have to spend too much time on this one. But yeah, I think it will be a shootout. I think it'll be a close fought game. I think Baker Mayfield is going to be better than what people are giving him credit for, including me. I'm not a big fan of him, but I do think he is going to find some success in Tampa Bay. Not Tom Brady level of success, but no one expects that. I'm sick of hearing the talking heads be like, he's not going to have, it's like no one, I don't know anyone that's like, oh yeah, Tom Brady 2.0. That's not Baker Mayfield. That's not anybody. So no, it's not gonna happen. But I do have the Vikings pulling it off and winning 17-14 off of a late game field goal. And I have that being kind of a showing sign for both of those teams' seasons. They're going to be teams that fight hard on both sides of the ball, and they're also going to be teams that struggle on both sides of the ball. I really think that we're going to see that from both teams. But in the end, I think the Vikings will pull it off.
It's going to be a scrappy game. It's going to be whoever, can run the ball on the other defense. If there's a team that can average 5 yards a carry on offense, because there's going to be a heavy dosage of running the football in this game, I think that team is going to come out on top. But like you said, and like I said, there's no guarantee that either team is going to do that. So it's going to be an interesting game to watch just from that standpoint.
No, it really is. It should be a good game. I'm excited for it. Looking at that next game, we've got the Panthers versus the Falcons. Another rookie quarterback getting a start for the Panthers. What's your thought?
I kind of like where the Panthers stand. The Falcons obviously have struggled. I kind of got this one as another really close game, because again, this is a game between two unknown commodities. There's a lot of unknowns on the Falcons. There's a lot of unknowns on the Panthers. So like if you're just going to go bet on this at the casino, it'd practically be a pick 'em. Nobody knows who to choose. I'm going to have to go with the Carolina Panthers. I think they'll do just enough. Give me the Panthers in a 21-17 type game.
Yeah, good take. I definitely think the Panthers will control this game. I think The Panthers are a team, another team that has been down that I think is going to start to be on the uprising a little bit. We're not going to see it enough to make a huge difference this season, but a team like the Falcons, you can beat them even if you're not the best team in the league. The Falcons, well, they could maybe see a little improvement. I think between those two teams, I've got to give it to the Panthers. I've definitely got to give it to the Panthers. I do have them winning. I have it being a little bit farther of a game, but not by much. I have it being a 21-10 game, and I have the Panthers coming out on top. And 1-0 looks pretty good if you're a Panthers fan because you have not seen that every season in the last few years. It's been
Yeah.
pretty rough. It's been a rough go around. So maybe the tides are turning a little bit. Another game we're going to look at is the Cardinals versus the Commanders. What's your thought on this? The Washington Commanders, it still is a little different to say, but I think it's a little more normal now, I guess.
Yeah. It's starting to become a little bit more normal. Although, before I get into my prediction for this game, did you see the article? The Native American tribe is trying to get them to reinstate the Redskins name.
I didn't see that. Huh.
Yeah, there's a big thing going on about it. If you have time to read up on it a little later, read up on it, and we'll talk about it a little bit more next episode. It's kind of interesting. But as far as this game goes, I think the Washington Commanders are going to be another one of those dark horse, sneaky good teams this year. They've got really good pieces on both sides of the ball. I'm going to go with the Commanders on this one. I think they're going to start off the season right. I think they're going to do enough. Give me the Commanders 31-14.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. I'm with you that I think the Commanders are a team that has been very shaky. Obviously, everything with even just the name, it wasn't even the name change itself. It was just everything the organization was going through during that time where everything was going on with all of that. And it was just, there was a lot of controversy and things going around with this organization. So it's good to see them on the rise. The Cardinals, if anything, are the opposite. They're
terrible.
up and down. They're a roller coaster team, and they'll make you think they're going to do something great and then just win like 6 or 7 games the next season. So
the thing with the Cardinals, though, I was watching practice video snippets of them, and they look god awful going up against their own teammates. They look god awful. They don't look organized, and it does not set up well. They could be in, a prime spot for the #1 draft pick at the end of the year. I just don't see them doing much of anything. That organization is a mess. Their coach left them, so they've got a new head coach. Obviously, the Kyler Murray situation does not help them at all. That organization is a mess, and we have said that about the Commanders in years past, and it seems like the Commanders now, they've got a new owner who seems to be getting things right. And they're adding really good talent to that side of on both sides of the ball. They're two different teams on two opposite ends of the spectrum right now. One's a playoff team, one's trying to figure something out. So this game, it's obviously a pretty easy pick if you're going to go on paper.
Oh yeah, no, it is. And I've got Commanders winning. I've got Commanders stomping the Cardinals 28-7. I've got the Commanders actually coming out and putting on a performance on both ends of the ball. Next game we have is the Jaguars versus the Colts. What's your take for this one?
I like the Jaguars. I really do. They finished the season really hot last year, snuck into the playoffs. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to step up his game a little bit. He put up a pretty good year last year. I think he's going to add to that this year. The Colts are kind of an unproven commodity. They lost Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor is no longer their running back, which hurts because Jonathan Taylor going into the year was going to be one of the league's top running backs. Give me the Jaguars. The Jaguars are the proven commodity in this one. I'm going to go with a little bit of a closer game, though. I think this game is going to be closer than everybody expects. Give me the Jaguars 28-24.
I'm taking same. I've got the same prediction, top to bottom, bro. I think you couldn't have said it any better. The Colts, RIP to the Colts. Colts fans, we know a couple that have seen our show at some point, and we just know a couple personally. So, man, not a good day to be a Colts fan. Not a good year to be a Colts fan. Not really a good last 10 years to be a Colts fan, if we're being completely honest. But anyways, that's another story for another time. Next game we have, this is another interesting one. 49ers versus the Steelers. I like this one. What's your thought on this one?
I really like this game. The Steelers are kind of on the up and up. The 49ers have all obviously been one of those NFC title contenders, Super Bowl contenders year in and year out, no matter how bad their offense is. Both defenses are really good. And this game, I think, is going to be a little bit more scrappy than one expects. I think this is going to be a really low scoring affair. Give me, man, this is tough. I think the 49ers are going to do just a little bit more. Give me the 49ers over the Steelers 20-17. I think it's going to be a little lower scoring. It's going to take a little bit for both offenses to get going. Your audio cut out.
Sorry about that. Even though the 49ers have a pretty high-powered offense, or what was viewed as that, I don't think they're going to have it. I think that it's going to be something that takes a minute. I think that I don't even know if we're going to see it the entire season. I think that Brock Purdy could work out. That team could be successful, but I'm not going to say Trey Lance, he didn't even really produce anything for them, but I just think the shifting of that organization shows a pattern of shifting that they've had the last few seasons. Lots of players going through a revolving door. They haven't built up a culture that it takes to really make it all the way. And if they would have gotten Tom Brady when he left the Patriots, we'd be seeing a different story, but they didn't. So that's a whole pride thing. That's another thing for another day, because there's a lot of stuff with that. But I think the 49ers are going to win this game. But I don't even know if I have them making out of a wild card game this season, if I'm being completely honest. But I do have them winning this game. I have them winning 21-14. I'll give them a touchdown win just because I do think they'll be able to control that. But it's not going to be pretty. Let's just say that. Looking at the next one, another interesting one. Actually, for me, I'm excited. I'm kind of a Saints fan this year. I never thought I'd say that, but my boy Derek Carr, as much as I maybe talked down on him last season when he wasn't winning games for us, not entirely his fault, but I'm excited. I think this is really his great opportunity to get back up to where he was in like 2016, 2015. I think he could really produce big numbers and lead the league and maybe be viewed a little differently if he's out of that Raiders spotlight. So I'm excited to see his first game. Maybe he's going to do what he did with the Raiders and not produce that much and be the same player, but I think it could be a different, better situation for him. So I'm excited. And he is taking on the Titans. It is Titans Saints for week 1. What's your opinion on this game?
I think it's another really good matchup to open the year. The Titans obviously had a disappointing end of the year last year. I do have the Titans in a playoff spot at the end of the year, though. It's kind of tough. I do think the Saints are going to be much improved with Derek Carr at the helm. I'm going to go with the Saints in this one. I think it's going to be really close. A lot of really close games in this opening week. I'm going to go with the Saints 28-27.
Man, that would be a game. That would be a great way to start the weekend or start the season. And just, man, that would be one to start the season with. We had a lot of really close games at the beginning of the season last year throughout all of football. And so that would be something that would be awesome to see. I will say for me, I'm with you that the Titans will I think both of these teams will make the playoffs, if I'm being honest. I think that both of these teams will at least be in the wild card. But what I will say is I definitely think the Saints are the better team, but only by a field goal. 24-21, Saints on top. It's not going to be a super pretty win. I think that these teams are going to take time to mesh, especially on the Saints side. But I do think that it will be a Saints victory. And I still think the Titans will show that the Titans have sneakily been one of the better teams in the league. We just haven't talked about them that much. They have been one of the better teams consistently. So at least making a wild card consistently the last 6, 7, 8 years. So for the most part, they've been a pretty successful or semi-successful organization. So, and they definitely have market value with Derrick Henry. I mean, they've got market value. They've got a lot of market value and things that other teams can't really say the same. So that would be that with that one. This one's interesting. I'm hoping that this one goes the way that I hope it goes, and that would be the Raiders versus the Broncos on Sunday, September 10th. I hope you have the same, you got the same opinion, right? You got the Raiders winning by like 40 points, right?
I don't think so.
Oh
Um, I,
man.
I'm sorry, man.
30? 30 points.
No, no. I think the Broncos are going to be really, really, really improved this year with Sean Payton at the helm. Sean Payton's a really good coach, and I think he's got enough moxie to coach up Russell Wilson. The Broncos have a lot of pieces to work with. They just got to get it all to mesh together, and they couldn't quite do that last year under the last regime. I think they'll find a way this year, and I think they're going to be one of the more interesting teams in the division this year, as much as I hate to say it for you. Um, I think the Broncos are going to be tough. I'm going to go with the Broncos here over your Oakland or Las Vegas Raiders, excuse me. 28-17. I think the Broncos show a little flash.
Here's the thing. I cannot argue with what you're saying about the Broncos being improved and Sean Payton being able to handle a player like Wilson and maybe turn that around. I'm with you on that. I wish I wasn't, but I am with you on that. But maybe it's because I'm a Raiders fan, or maybe it's because if Jimmy G is healthy, maybe we make it happen. Or maybe Tom Brady comes in middle of the season and saves the day. Who knows? Either way, he owes us, man, for that. He owes us for that Woodson. He owes us. He owes us for that
That
the tuck fight. He owes us. He owes
that
us.
that Tom
So
Brady thing is such wishful thinking, man.
hey, I'm holding out hope. I don't have a Raiders Brady jersey, but I have a Bucks one. So every Sunday I'll put it on and just be like, come on, man, it's time. But no, I do think that the Raiders will win. I do have them winning. I think it'll be close. I have them winning 28-21, just a touchdown. I'm not sold on the Raiders by any means. I don't even know if I can say they'll make the wild card this season, but I do think they have a better shot, and I do think they could be much improved. I'm already seeing rumors like, don't be surprised if you see Davante Adams being traded before like the deadline. And I'm like, I don't think we're there yet. I do think that there is a hope, but it's just, I don't know.
If
I don't buy Jimmy G, unfortunately.
I don't buy Jimmy G either. He wasn't a very good quarterback. He was serviceable with the 49ers when he was healthy, but he wasn't, say, a league top quarterback. Nowhere close. That the defense is what carries the 49ers year in and year out because they're a top 3 defensive unit in the league. Their offense doesn't really do a whole lot outside of Deebo Samuel. So it's going to be tough. I wouldn't be surprised with that Davante Adams thing. If the Raiders start off really slow, to your dismay, this is just hypothetical thinking. But if they start off the season and it's like they're 6 weeks into the year and they only have like 2 wins, they're like 2-4, I would not be shocked if they dished away Davante Adams for a draft pick, or see if they could add another piece to that arsenal to see if they can try and make a push late year.
And I can see, again, I unfortunately can see that happening. I hope for Raiders fans everywhere and also myself that doesn't happen. But honestly, the Davante Adams experiment was really for Derek Carr anyway, because they had that connection. They played in college together. That was the whole pull. So it would make sense maybe if it does. It would make sense if it doesn't work out. But I do think there is hope. I'm not super hopeful with our coach, but the only thing is, I know he's worked with Jimmy G before. They're familiar with each other. That can go a long way. If Tom Brady is involved in the organization, even in a front office, in something that could make, there is hope, but I'm not holding out too much hope, honestly.
Yeah,
But
You talking about the connection between Devontae Adams and Derek Carr. I could see that scenario happening again.
Oh,
I
man.
could I can see potentially if the Raiders are in position to need to trade, I could see them trading a piece like Devontae Adams to the Saints.
Oh.
And I could see that Saints offense really going off, adding a piece like Devontae Adams to that arsenal.
Oh man, you're breaking my heart out here. I mean, but I can see that. Here's the thing. It's very realistic, and the Raiders are in no place to be secure with really any of these players. I mean, even our running back, I would say top three best running back in the league. We didn't know we were getting him until he signed, and it's a 1 year extension. It's not no one's really fully bought in, I don't think, with this Raiders team. And I think it's going to take a lot for them to get back to that, but it is not impossible. That next game, this isn't a good one. We've got the Eagles versus the Patriots. Man, I'm excited for this one. What's your take on this one?
Got two, I think, two playoff teams in this matchup. I think the Patriots are going to sneak up and make it back into the playoffs. I think Belichick will get them back in check. And then the Eagles. Obviously, we're just in the Super Bowl. I think Jalen Hurts is probably the preseason MVP favorite for the year. Um, this is another really close game. I think it's going to be a little higher scoring too. I think both offenses are going to show off some fireworks. Give me the Eagles though, 38-31. I think it's going to be pretty closely fought. I think it's going to be more of a barn burner. So it should be interesting to watch.
I'm with you. I think it will be as well. I think the Eagles have a lot to prove, and it's not because they didn't have a great season last year. It's because they did. They have a lot to prove that they can make it back to that point. So I've got that being a high scoring game as well. I have it actually being the highest scoring game of the weekend, at least at the moment. I have it being a game where the Eagles are getting upwards of 42 points. I've got it being a 42-28 win, but I have the Patriots fighting, and I think that Ezekiel Elliott fit. I like it, honestly. Like,
I do
I
too.
know that everyone is talking like, oh, this, that, but I like it. I like the Ezekiel. I think it's going to work. I do think he's going to benefit that team. I think he's going to really fit Belichick's system because Belichick is a system player. Tom Brady fueled that success, but the Belichick system, Tom Brady would not have all those rings without Belichick. It goes hand in hand. He would have a couple. Belichick's system was a major part of that connection, at least there. So I think it's going to be good. I think that we'll see the Patriots kind of regain. They're not going to be the top of the AFC, but they'll get closer to where they were. But I still have that Eagles team coming out on top and showing that they're ready to make it back to that Super Bowl. Couple more games over the first NFL week. We've got the Rams versus the Seahawks. Oh, the Rams won a Super Bowl, and then that was about that. So, what are our thoughts, man? What do you think? Same with the Seahawks, honestly. They won, and now they've been all over the
I
place. What do you think's winning?
the Rams, I don't see them doing a whole lot again this year. I don't know if they're going to be a playoff team. If they are a playoff team, they're going to make it to the wild card, and I think that's it. The Seahawks, though, I can see making a jump over last year. Geno Smith at quarterback for the Seahawks led that team, and they were pretty decent when he took over. I think the Seahawks make a little bit more of a jump. I have the Seahawks winning 21-13 over the Rams.
That's a great take. I share that take, honestly. I think it'll be the same. I think that the Rams aren't going to do that much. They've really lost. Even the team that they did have briefly, they lost very quickly. And it wasn't so much Stafford as it was the players that were around him. And again, a lot of those, if not all of those players, are gone or injured or just not what they were. So it's not the same team. I think Aaron Donald is going to get moved. I think that he's going to end up getting moved from this team. I think that they're going to go rebuild mode. I don't think it's going to happen right away, but like we saw with Von Miller, those key defensive pieces that are just kind of wasting away after winning those championships and then not doing much more. team-wise, I think we're going to see Aaron Donald on the move eventually. I don't know. Maybe he'll come to the Raiders, man. I'll take him. We'll take Aaron Donald on the Raiders for sure, bro. We'll take anybody. We'll take everybody. But no, yeah. At this point, for real though, man. But no, I do think that it could be interesting for the Rams. I think we'll see them go more rebuild mode than what I would have expected. Honestly, after they won the Super Bowl, I was like, this might be a team to compete now, but it's not the case. So I definitely have the Seahawks winning, same score, and I have the Rams not accomplishing all that much this season. Couple more games. We've got the Dolphins and the Chargers, a pretty high up there offensive matchup in the AFC. What is your take on this one?
Oh, this is a tough matchup to really judge because, like you said, it's going to be a highly offensive matchup. I think the Miami Dolphins offense is going to be really good, but I also do think the Chargers offense is going to be really good with Herbert. I'm going to go with the Chargers. I think the Chargers are going to be another one of my Super Bowl dark horse teams this year. I think they're going to sneak up and bite a few more people that you don't necessarily expect. Give me the Chargers here in a high-scoring game, 35-27. I think it's going to be a very highly contested game, but I think the Chargers just have a little bit more firepower.
I can buy that for sure. I have the same exact prediction of it being a higher scoring game, but a lot of these are the flip-flopped. I do have the Dolphins coming out on top. I think the Dolphins are going to make that jump. They've been a decent team, but I think they're going to make that push to get a little farther up. So I'm excited to see that push. And I'm not a big Chargers guy, so I'm hoping the Chargers drop that game. But I do think as you can imagine. But I assume that the Chargers will at least make the wild card with ease, and I think that they'll be one of those higher up offensive teams and just teams in the AFC. But I definitely have the Dolphins coming out a touchdown ahead, 28-21, and Dolphins winning 28-21, and showing us that they are that team. 3 more games on the first week. Now we've got your team, man. Time for you to spill how you're feeling, bro. We've got the Packers versus the Bears. Not a bad game to start the season out on. First game without
No.
Rodgers. How do you feel?
I actually feel pretty damn good. Jordan Love looked pretty sharp. I think they've got a good backup if they need to go to him behind him. Christian Watson has really showed up. Dobbs has showed up. They've got a good running back room. Their defense looks to be much improved as well. I think the Packers, my bias put aside, they may be up there to win the division at the end of the year, and that may sound like a hot take to a bunch of people, but the Packers have still quite a bit of talent. If they can keep Jordan Love healthy, I'm going to go with the Packers. I'm going with my boys here. I think the Packers win a pretty close game against the Bears, 28-17. I think the Packers find a way to pull away late.
Yeah, I can buy that for sure. I think the Packers are actually going to make a step forward without Rodgers. And it's no diss to Rodgers because I do think he is going to, we'll actually talk about his first game last. I do think he'll find some success in New York. I don't think it's just going to be some awful, terrible situation. I do think there'll be success of some sort, but I think it's better for the Packers to move forward. And I think that they honestly should have sooner a little bit. I think they waited a little too long. He did provide them some MVP moments and some actual MVPs. He provided them plenty of playoff moments. Most of them were losses, but I think it's time, and I think the Packers are going to reflect that in their opening game. It's going to be a breath of fresh air. I've got the Packers stomping, and stomping the Bears 21-7. I'm not a Packers guy, but I'm rooting for him, man. I have to root for him for your sake for sure. And I think that they are going to be a better team anyway. So I've got Packers coming in next. We've got 2 more games on the weekend. We have two big ones, possibly the 2 highest caliber ones, the ones that everyone wants to see: Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football. Usually those are the big name ones. Sometimes they'll throw some Commander games in there or something on Monday Night Football, but usually it's the big ones. Sunday Night Football, First Sunday Night Football this season. It should come as no surprise. Cowboys versus Giants. I'm excited for this one. What's your take on this one?
I'm excited for this one too. I think the Giants are going to be pretty decent this year. Cowboys, I think, will be decent as well. The Cowboys rattled off 12 wins last year. But, you know, it's kind of tough because Dak Prescott's kind of been inconsistent at times in big moments. I'm going to go with Daniel Jones and the Giants crew. I think the Giants are going to win a close game. It's going to be a closely fought divisional matchup. Give me the Giants 24-20.
That's a good take. I think the Giants definitely are going to be more that team that will be able to play a team like the Cowboys like that. But as much as it annoys me, I think the Cowboys have arrived. I think that the talent they've added in their draft class, the talent that they have secured, the talent that they have brought in with Trey Lance. I know that it's a controversy. Some people, I mean, it's an interesting move. But I do think they're securing what they need to secure for their future. And I think we're going to see that. Unfortunately, for Cowboys haters like myself, I do think that they are going to be one of the better teams in the NFC. I think they are absolutely going to be, at least regular season wise, one of those teams. So I do have them beating the Giants, not by a lot, just by a field goal, 24-21. It's a close game, comes down to the wire. We see the Giants and everything that they're going to offer, but I do think the Cowboys walk away. And then the final one of week one, Monday Night Football, or Monday afternoon football in Hawaii at 2:15. We've got the Bills versus the Jets. And I don't know about you, man, but I have never been rooting for Josh Allen more, to be honest with you. To be honest with you. And I don't know why, because I just, for some reason, but let's hear it, bro. What's your opinion? What's your take? Let us hear all of it, man.
The Jets, with all their pieces that they added with Randall Cobb, Alan Lazard, they've added a few more pieces on the defensive side of the ball. The Jets are going to be a dark horse team. They've got an MVP quarterback at the helm now, something that the Jets haven't had in quite a while. And then the Bills. The Bills are a proven commodity. They've been in huge situations before. The Jets, as much as I hate to say it, and as much as it puts a dirty taste in my mouth, I think they're going to be a dark horse contender this year. Because I do think this team is going to be really good. They're going to make the biggest leap of anybody in the NFL. I'm willing to take that to the bank. It's going to be a good game. It's going to be a highly scored game. I think it's going to be a really close one. I still have the Bills coming out on top, but I think it's going to be closer than most people expect. Give me the Bills 35-31. I think the Bills find a way to get a late touchdown to pull away.
I'm with you, bro. I definitely think I'm with you on the prediction. I'm with you on all of that. I'm with you on how legit the Jets could be. I'm hesitant to go all the way as a Super Bowl. I could definitely see the potential for an AFC Championship appearance. The only reason that it doesn't go further than that is two reasons. One, inexperience in the Jets organization with making it even to the playoffs. And two, Aaron Rodgers is known to choke. But on paper, this is the team that could make it all the way and could show everybody who they really are. Now, I do think that anyone in the NFC would stomp them in the Super Bowl. I will say that I think the Eagles, even I don't know if I should say this. This is hard, but even the Cowboys, they're not going to make the Super Bowl. And if they did, I think they could beat a team like the Jets. But the Jets could find, on paper, they could find their way all the way through the NFC.
On paper, the Jets have one of the better rosters in the NFL.
Top to bottom.
Yeah, top to bottom. They've got really good defensive pieces. They've got really good offensive pieces. The job that they have done to fill in those gaps that the Jets have been lacking at filling the last several years, they have done a really good job. at building this roster. I think a lot of that has to do with having Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, asking Aaron Rodgers what pieces that he wants and going out and grabbing them. Yeah, the Jets are going to be an interesting story to talk about all year long because, like, on paper, they're a bona fide Super Bowl contender. But like you were saying, they have inexperience, in the front office and stuff like that with dealing with situations like that because they just have not been, which could be a detriment, but that could also be good because they, again, don't have that experience. So now they're finally getting that experience. We'll see what they do with it. I do think the Jets, though, at the end of the year, for a season prediction, I think the Jets find a way to win 11, 12 games this year.
Yeah, I could buy that. I could absolutely buy that. I think that it's the Jets to lose. Like, it's the Jets games to lose. A lot of their games are games that if they lose, they're going to lose them because they beat themselves. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to say they have an easy schedule, but I looked at it and they have a winnable schedule. They absolutely can get it done. So I definitely think that they will be a good team, but I do have the Bills winning as well. Final NFL topic. We've stayed on NFL for quite some time. Obviously, it's that time of year, but we're going to move on to some college football next. I'm really excited for that. We have one more quick topic. I just want to list out your top 3 teams in the AFC and your top 3 teams in the NFC. It's a little tough, but we just talked about the Jets and how they could be. Are they a top 3 team? Let's go through AFC first. What are your top 3 AFC teams for this season?
AFC, obviously the top one, Kansas City Chiefs.
Not the
Kansas City
Raiders? Come on.
Huh?
I said not the Raiders? Come on, man.
No, absolutely not. Chiefs are obviously number one in the AFC. Two is going to be tough. But I'm going to put the top 2 teams are going to be in the AFC West. I've got the Chiefs and I've got the Bengals. I think the Bengals are going to take another step forward this year. I think they'll be up there competing with the Chiefs for that division title. So I've got the Bengals there at 2. And then in number 3, I've got the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills, I think, are going to be really good again this year. And they're another proven commodity. So I've got the Chiefs, the Bengals, and the Bills. What are your thoughts?
That's a good list, bro. I've got a very similar list. There's only one team that is different. I've got the Chiefs at 1, defending champs. We got to put them there. And they played amazing football last season, especially without Tyreek Hill. Everyone thought they might fall. If anything, they climbed up and they improved in a lot of areas. So Chiefs at 1, Bengals. I've got to go with the Bengals at 2. I think they're coming back with vengeance this season. I think we're going to see Joe Burrow go on an MVP caliber season. 3, Baltimore Ravens. I think, bro, I mean, here's the thing. It's hard to make that call.
It was hard.
It's so, you know what? It's hard, but it's Lamar Jackson always is going to put up MVP numbers if he's healthy. He's always going to, he is a NBA, good Lord. NFL, we're not quite on the NBA topic yet. NFL talent by a million. I mean, he is talent-wise one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL. Winning wise, accolade wise, no. But talent wise, top 5 quarterback in the NFL. OBJ, yes, he's injury prone. Yes, he has his stuff. I think they're going to use him correctly, and he's going to stay healthy enough to make a difference. We're going to see trick plays. We're going to see them use him correctly. I think this team is really going when we talk about dark horse teams, I think it's going to be the Ravens. So might be a hot take, but I've got to go with the Ravens because I think they're going to arrive and they're going to show up. Switching over to the NFC. Who do you have for the NFC?
NFC is another tough one. But I'm going with the proven commodity in the Philadelphia Eagles. They were just in the Super Bowl. They won the most games out of anybody in the league last year. Got to go with Eagles number 1. Number 2 is another tough one, but I'm going to have to go, as much as I hate to say it, Dallas Cowboys at number 2. I think the Dallas Cowboys are going to take that step forward this year. And then number 3 is another tough one to fill in this. Man, I'm going to have to go with the San Francisco 49ers. I think that defense is still way too good. I think that defense is going to keep them in a lot of games. And I think that offense, once it gets rolling, I think it's going to take care of some business. So that's my top three.
Man, that's a great top three. Honestly, like you said, it's really hard because a lot of these teams are kind of evening out the playing field, if you will. And I think for that, it's we've seen these teams that have been like on top and easily on top. We don't see that anymore, I don't think. I don't think we are seeing that much separation like that we used to. But with that, there is still teams that are a cut above the rest. Obviously, the Philadelphia Eagles, defending almost Super Bowl champions. They're the almost team. There's always an almost team. They were really an almost team. It's not like the Chiefs showed up and just stomped them. It was a close game.
Mm-hmm.
Eagles at 1. Unfortunately, Dallas Cowboys at 2. I share that. I share it, man. It's not, I hate it. It feels, I don't like it, but they are. And I think that this is their season, like it always is, their season to lose. The NFC is going to be close. Other than the Eagles, that are the team that is a cut above them, they are the second best team. This is in order. They are the second best team in the NFC, unfortunately. And I say unfortunately because I wish it wasn't true, but they are. And then coming in at number 3, I've got to go with the Minnesota Vikings because they are a team that has came so close. They're kind of like the Bills. They're the Bills of the NFC a little bit. They've had so many almost moments, but they've never made it to that Super Bowl. They've NFC final. They've came so close, but they've never even made it to that big stage in that time. So it reminds me of that, and I think that this could be their season. Obviously, I don't really agree with Justin Jefferson at number 2, top 10, but I do agree with him being in the top 10 and being the best receiver. So having the best receiver, having a veteran quarterback with a good head on his shoulders and a good solid team could really pay off, and we could see them go the distance. So man, that's got to be my top 3. But like you said, it's a tough one, and we'll check in mid-season and see were we right. I mean, it's going to be interesting, bro. It's going to be good. But moving on, bring us into our college football, specifically Husker football segment. Let's get right into it, bro.
All right. Well, obviously, Nebraska football kicked off last night in Minneapolis, and there were some takeaways. Nebraska lost a heartbreaker. I know it sounds like the same story each and every year. They lost a heartbreaker to Minnesota yesterday, 13-10. Minnesota hit a walk-off field goal to win it. But there are a lot of really good takeaways that we can, take from this game and kind of, improve upon. And then obviously a lot of points to improve on in general. Jeff Sims, he threw 3 interceptions in key moments, 2 of which were in touchdown situations. Those were the bona fide difference in the game. If Nebraska would have capitalized on getting those 2 touchdowns rather than Jeff Sims forcing the ball into a situation where it didn't need to be, Nebraska would have won yesterday. So obviously you can't turn the ball over. I'm going to go with one of the good things now. The defense looked really good. They played really fast. I think Tony White's 3-3-5 is a good fit. Minnesota couldn't rush the ball for the life of them. They threw the ball like 40 times last night. Minnesota was only averaging, 2.5 yards per carry, which is really good. Based that, Minnesota is a team that rushes the ball almost 70% of the time. The offense also showed some pretty good things too. They've shown that they can run the ball. Now, a thing they need to improve on, obviously turnovers, ball security is a big thing. 2 is capitalizing on situations. 3, they moved the ball. They held the ball for, I think, 25 minutes of the game. The time of possession between the 2 teams was really damn close. So in my opinion, this game wasn't the same old story, Nebraska, of losing close games. Yeah, they lost a close game, but I think this team looked way different than any of the other teams that Frost had in the past 4 or 5 years. So I do think there's a lot that they can build on. It's still early in this regime. I think Matt Rule will still get it done. This thing is just going to take a little time. I do still think Nebraska is a 6-7 win team this year. I think once things get rolling, they'll find a way to win a couple of games here and there that they may not be favored to win. And it all starts next week. They go to Colorado, and we'll touch more on that game here in our next little bit. But what are your takeaways and thoughts from last night's game?
My favorite thing about last night's game obviously was not the final score, but it was seeing Matt Rule coach and seeing him when the game started and the energy was high. He was trying to relax his players. They had the illegal huddle. He was trying to he was coaching. Okay. We didn't see Scott Frost coach. I'm sorry, but we didn't see Scott Frost coach. We saw Bo Pelini coach. It might have been him spitting and screaming in someone's face. We saw Bo Pelini coach. I'll even say we saw Mike Riley coach maybe a little bit. It was mainly just, the outside, the morale stuff, which was awesome, but it wasn't enough. It didn't translate to on the field. But we did not see Scott Frost, in my personal opinion, actually coach, calm his players down, try to get them on the right track. Matt Rule is going to do that. It is not going to happen in one night. It's not going to happen in 2 nights. It's going to happen in a whole season. This season is our year to build.
Yeah, exactly. It's just unfortunate that they had to start a season off against a team like Minnesota.
People don't talk about how good that defense is. People don't understand that is one of the best defenses in the country.
They're a top 2 scoring defense in the entirety of major college football. And
it was good. We held them and we fought, and it could have gotten out of hand. What would have usually happened is this, okay? What usually would have happened is flipped. We would have scored 3, maybe a field goal. They would have gone up 10-3, and then they would have kept going and going. That's not, we control, the game was not that bad. And our touchdown we did score was off of a mistake, which we would not have said. We saw, how many mistakes, and you can't blame just Scott Frost because it's not like he's the one out there on the field, but we saw so many mistakes that turned into interceptions, fumbles last season. We saw a bad snap, it wasn't a bad. We just saw
bad
play,
backwards pass.
Bad backwards pass into a touchdown, into a controlled touchdown with a wide open player. And it was his first career reception. That's huge. I don't care about the score. I care about seeing him get that catch and seeing this team start to move towards the right page. It's not enough right now. Again, it's not great. I'm not super happy about the way the game ended, but it is not like last year or years in the past where it's like, oh, we were this close. No, we are here. This is going to happen. This is a real thing.
It's one of those things, like you talked about Frost, like Nebraska easily under Frost would have folded after that first half being down 3-0. Like 3-0 is nothing to come back from. And they showed that in their opening drive. They opened up the second half with a 65-yard kick return to get them in prime position for that trick play. And this team just fought and fought and fought. They outgained Minnesota. By quite a bit. And the time of possession was really close. So Nebraska, it's another close loss. And we're going to get some people in the comments on these videos that may be Husker fans that think it's the same old story. But I don't think that's true. Because there was an energy on that sideline last night. Matt Rule was coaching up his players, like you were saying. The coaching staff was active. Yeah, there were times where Matt Rule looked like he was a deer caught in headlights, but it was first game jitters, trying to figure things out. And I do think the staff, once they review the tape, they're reviewing the tape today. Once they review the tape, go through practice, improve on the things that they struggled with, like ball security. If they didn't turn the ball over 4 times, Nebraska would have won by multiple scores. And I don't think I'm wrong with saying that. You cannot turn over the ball 4 times. But the fact that they turned the ball over 4 times and they still only lost by 3 points is huge. That defense is on the field a lot.
We
And
showed a lot.
yeah, that defense is going to be really good. There's a reason why this scheme and defense, when Tony White was over at Syracuse, was in the top 20 in total defense last year. They are really good. And I think this defensive scheme and this defense in general is likely going to be a top 20 type unit at the end of the year when all is said and done. Now the offense needs to figure things out. Once the offense figures things out, everything will take care of itself. You just got to get rid of the mistakes.
That's the thing I think is consistency on both sides of the ball. We've struggled with that for years, even when we had Pelini, even when we had some success in the 2000s. Since the 90s, we've struggled with consistency on both sides of the ball. Since we've entered the 2000s, especially 2005 on, we've seen one side of the ball be a lot stronger than the other most seasons. The last few both have been pretty weak, if you ask me, but I'd say consistency on both sides of the ball is what Rule is really pushing for. And first game jitters out of the way. Honestly, seriously, I thought that we had it, and I think a lot of fans thought that, and unfortunately that's been a common thought process even during the last few seasons when we really haven't had it. But it's a different we had it. It's a different, I mean, it really is like we are figuring this out. They're going to watch the film, they're going to go over it. And next up is a pretty big matchup, but I think our boys are ready. And let's get into it, bro. Nebraska versus Colorado. First, before we go into that, just Colorado. They start against number 17 TCU. We record this on a Friday, so it'll be tomorrow. TCU versus Colorado. First and foremost, what I said yesterday, someone asked me about Nebraska versus Colorado, and my thought process was whatever team wins their opening game is going to have the momentum it's going to need to win that game against that rival team. A game against a rival team is a whole different atmosphere. It doesn't really matter how good the team is. We've seen really bad rival teams beat their rival team and then lose against easier teams. So the thing is that it doesn't, like, the skill level doesn't really ever matter. The Huskers have always competed against their rival teams, even if the score doesn't show it. But I think we have the team to actually compete against Colorado. And yeah, we lost. I don't think Colorado is beating TCU. We talked about this before the show. I don't think Colorado is beating TCU, to be honest. Could they beat TCU? Yeah, they could beat TCU. I don't think they beat an established TCU team that was literally just in the top 10 last season and could find their way back there this season without a doubt. So I have Colorado dropping the game and us both being an even 0-1 going into that matchup. But regardless of that hypothetical loss, what do you think is going to happen? Give us your honest opinion, your thoughts, your hopes for that week 2 game against Colorado.
I think Matt Rule is going to have these guys ready to roll. They're going to go over the film and they're going to go over what they did, what they did and didn't do. And I think they're going to do all those things. I think this Nebraska team is going to go into Boulder and I think they're going to win. Bias aside, I think it's going to take a while for this Deion Sanders thing to get because they have 95% roster turnover. Yeah, they brought in a bunch of talented players, but I think it's going to take a while for that entire team to gel. And I don't agree with Deion Sanders' arrogance, so nothing would be better than Nebraska going in there and kind of shutting him up for another week. I'm going to go. I think the offense will figure things out. I think the defense is going to be just as good as they were against Minnesota, maybe a little bit better. I've got Nebraska kind of pulling away against Colorado next week. Give me Nebraska 35-17. I think that defense is going to do a really good job at holding the playmakers of Colorado at bay. I think they're going to make that, stadium that's going to be 65% red really happy at the end of Saturday afternoon.
Man, that's a good take. I like that. I hope that's what happens. I'm with you on that. That's good thought process. What I will say is this. Deion Sanders has always had that level of confidence and almost arrogance to himself and to his game. I do think that it is not him. Some people have an extra level of confidence, to overcompensate, and it's really not confidence actually. I do really
Yeah.
think that that is who he is. He is a confident person. What I like about him, what I really like about his coaching is he's not doing it for himself. He's doing it for his players. He's doing it for a higher power. He's doing it for more. He's doing it for more. And he's always had that mindset with coaching. And the way we know that is Deion Sanders didn't go straight to an NFL team to coach. He probably could have gotten onto would he be a head coach? No. He could probably get a positions coach position with an NFL team or work his way up. But he started with a high school, then he went to Jackson State. And now I do like why he coaches. I do like the reason behind why he is how he is with his coaching, but he is arrogant. And I am sure that he is telling his Colorado players that they are going to kill us. I'm sure he's letting them know that it's not even going to be close. He thinks they're going to be in the
What?
conversation for playoffs right away.
Well,
That's his level that's Scott Frost level of arrogance. What's
exactly.
the
That's
difference?
exactly what I was about to say. He reminds me a lot of Scott Frost because Frost had a shit ton of arrogance, and we all know how that worked out for him.
And he came in with a really good situation before Nebraska. It's not the same thing. Same with Jackson. It's not the same thing.
No, and Colorado has a really tough schedule this year. They got to go to USC. They've got to play Oregon, which is going to be really good too. They've got to play Utah. They've got to play all the top guns in the Pac-12. And the fact that, Deion may be going through and saying that they're going to kill Nebraska, which makes me feel a little bit better about the game going in because Colorado may sleepwalk.
Especially if they win against TCU, they will sleepwalk without a doubt. Without a doubt, they will sleepwalk.
Which immediately turns that game into a trap game for Colorado because Colorado would go into that game favored.
Oh yeah, and they're favored even if they lose. If they lose to TCU, I'm sure they're still favored because it makes the talent they brought in. I get it. I understand a turnover. I understand that, but that isn't going to turn into a playoff season or a top 10 season. Now, I will say they absolutely could win 6 or 7 games, even with the level of so you know what, I'm gonna say 5 or 6. I don't think I can go to 7 because of their schedule. I
I've got
think
them
they can
winning
win 5 or 6. Yeah, they're right around there. I don't think they're going to go much above that. Do I think that he could bring them to the top of a conference? Could he bring them to the top of of college football eventually? Maybe, but it's not going to happen right away. And the only thing I will say, again, I compared him to Scott Frost, and it's a comparison with his arrogance as a coach. Player wise, obviously, it's a whole. We're not comparing the. It's not what we're doing here, but I just think that even though Sanders definitely has earned his right to know that this is what he should do, this is his calling, that's amazing, I love that, you know what, I get that, but I just think that there's another side of this that is going to get exposed, and I think that their confidence, or if you want to call it arrogance, which I would call it at least a little arrogance, is going to get exposed against TCU. And who's to say that it's not going to get exposed twice? So I think the Huskers win. I will say this. If you remember, the last time we played Colorado in Memorial Stadium, didn't they kicked a field? Was it they kicked a field goal and made it, or we kicked a field goal and missed? Is they kicked a field goal and made it, correct?
I think they kicked the field goal and made it.
So I have this being a reverse situation. Sweet, sweet revenge for that. I have us winning by a field goal, 24-21. I have us showing up and showing out. You already know Colorado tried to make it so that Nebraska fans wouldn't have seats, but we're not going to let that happen. There's going to be plenty of red in that stadium, and I'm hyped, bro. I wish that game was tomorrow. I mean, I'm kind of glad it's not because we have a lot of work to do before then with film and practice, but I'm ready for it, man. It's going to be a good game. So we will obviously catch back up with that game whenever we do, and with the Huskers, we'll stay up with them throughout. But before we move on from talking Huskers, we've got to talk about something that should get a lot of attention and has gotten a lot of attention. Volleyball Day in Nebraska, something that I hope is a trend throughout all of sports in a couple of different sports. Talk us through this, man. Did you get to go to it? First of all, did you get to witness it?
Unfortunately, no, as much as I would have loved to have been in that stadium, what a cool thing. They broke the all-time women's sports attendance record for a volleyball game. 92,003 people showed up, and it was incredible. And they got all the bigger volleyball schools in Nebraska to participate. They had Wayne State, they had University of Nebraska Kearney, I think,
Mhm.
and then they had Nebraska, and then they had UNO. Unfortunately, they couldn't get Creighton because Creighton was out of town. Um, but still, they were able to get four teams involved, and then for the nightcap to have over 90,000 fans in there watching Nebraska women against the UNO women. It was incredible. Like you could just feel the energy through the TV when it was on. And you look at that stadium, you would think there was a football game or something going on in that place. It was crazy. Um, Nebraska ended up sweeping through all three sets against UNO. So they took care of business, did whatever they had to do. It's an exhibition, but I don't care. Number four Nebraska did what number four Nebraska had to do. It was just a really cool thing. And just to say that the University of Nebraska has the all-time attendance record in the Book of World Records is incredible. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say this. It's been said before, but there is no place like Nebraska. Nebraska, bar none, has the best collegiate fan base of anybody. And that says a lot.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong, bro. I wish I could have witnessed it in person. I obviously it was everywhere on social media. Being from Nebraska, it was everybody was watching it there. I unfortunately could not watch it. It was while I was working and coaching, but I caught up some highlights and just seen that stadium because I have been in that stadium many times for football games. Seeing the volleyball team do the tunnel walk, that was really cool.
That was super cool.
That's so cool because
Oh,
honestly, that is a team that deserves recognition like that because they have had far more success than our football team has the last
oh
10
yeah.
years. Oh my goodness. I mean, I think that women's sports in general, this was big for that. And I again, is just this going to raise viewership? No, but I do think that this is a step in the right direction. I want to see more of this, more bigger facilities used, more just let's keep this stuff going because that was really cool. And I really think that there's a big after last college basketball season, women's college basketball season, man, we've got some really notable players in women's college basketball coming back to this next season. So I know Iowa is doing something with basketball that has like 32 to 40,000 people that's going to be in attendance. Obviously, it's nowhere close to what we had. We can still say we're better than Iowa, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
At least in this account, but it is cool to see that. It's cool to see more sports in more states take. I hope that that's a trend because that was amazing, man. What a deserving moment for the sport of volleyball and also specifically shout out to our Nebraska Cornhuskers. Let's win a championship this season, bro. I think it's possible. I think that
I,
volleyball team could absolutely win it. And what a way to start your season. That would be the most historic season in volleyball history to start with a world record breaking game and finish with a championship. So I'm calling it right now, right here. That's my prediction.
my prediction is the same thing. I think Nebraska will get it taken care of and they'll get their sixth.
I think so too. Let's see it, man. Number 6, let's get that Jordan one. You know what I'm saying?
Go Big Red.
Get that Jordan chip. But no, I think it's possible, and I'm excited to see see that grow. And we'll definitely keep you guys updated. And speaking of basketball, we don't have anything college basketball too much to talk about. Really quickly, really scary. This happened a while ago, no, but shout out to Bronny for recovering from that heart attack. That's pretty scary, man. That is really scary. So whatever the situation was, I've heard a couple different theories about what might have caused that with steroids. I'm hoping that's not true. I doubt that's the case. You know that people can be born with heart conditions that they don't know about until something happens like that. So I think that's all it is, but hoping that it's not anything else, assuming that it's not. But that's really the only big college basketball thing that's happened, and that is really not a positive. Luckily, he's made a full recovery, but we do have some NBA to talk about, not as much as we will come October, and but we do have a little bit of NBA stuff to talk about because there have been some major things that have happened, or some major conversations that have happened within the last few months since we have been gone. So we are going to dive into a little bit of NBA to wrap up our show. Again, season 3, it's good to be back. We're going to be found on a lot more platforms, so really excited to spread this show out for you guys. But looking at our final subjects of the night, of the episode, we are looking at some NBA. First and foremost, we're going to go through this pretty quickly. We don't have to go through every single team, but of the teams in the offseason, which teams have done the best? Because there's always teams that do the best in the offseason and teams that do the worst. I'm going to just go really quickly because I'm already wearing the jersey, the high school jersey of Kobe, and I'm showing off the tattoo. So I'll already go with the Lakers. And this is not a home fan opinion. I think a lot of people would agree. The Lakers actually had a really good offseason, one of the better ones they've had in the last few years. Retaining their starting 5 while also building up that other core that they need and building a few positions that they did not have. So I'm going to go with the Lakers right away as one of the best. Without a doubt, a great build. Another team I'm going to say is the Memphis Grizzlies. Adding Derrick Rose is huge. Adding veteran leadership, that's what they need. And cutting ties with Dylan Brooks. Man, he is still talking, saying that he beat LeBron, talking crazy about that whole series.
Yeah.
So cutting ties with him is also good. Memphis Grizzlies, a team that is, I think, definitely improved a good amount and will, make some big changes. Another team I want to say, and I'll give you the floor in a second before we switch back and forth. But one more team I want to say, switching over to the Eastern Conference, the Washington Wizards. If you can believe it, I'm going to say that they actually had one of the best off seasons. Jordan Poole is going to be a James Harden type of player for Washington. I'm calling it right now. Kyle Kuzma is a solid player. They have a pretty solid young core and they have a pretty good team. So I think that Washington team actually had a really solid off season. But there's a lot of other teams. What are a couple other teams that you think had good off seasons?
Oh man, that's tough. I would have to agree with your top 3. In fact, I had the same top 3. I think the Lakers, obviously, being able to retain their starting 5 while building on that young core was huge. The Lakers are going to be a force to be reckoned with. The Grizzlies as well, making the moves they had to do, getting rid of Brooks, who is obviously still talking, which is ridiculous. And then the Wizards did really good this offseason as well. The Wizards may be a sneaky good team this year if all the pieces come into play. Couple of other teams, it's really tough. But I think, the Miami Heat did a pretty good job at retaining some of their key pieces. They need to add Damian Lillard. They really need to add Dame into that lineup. I don't think Damian Lillard has a spot yet. And I know Miami has the money to sign a guy like that. But Miami has had a pretty decent offseason. Outside of those 4 teams, man, I have to be honest, I haven't really seen a whole lot.
No, that's fair, bro. I will say, and there's some teams that have either done very little or not at all. Another team that I want to talk about that I think has done really, 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 really good. And I don't want to, it makes me a little upset. If I'm being completely honest, it does not give me pleasure to say that this team has done a good job, but they definitely have. That is the Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns absolutely made a change that I didn't see coming. And it's not that Bradley Beal, that made sense to me. I'm like, yeah, they're going to go for an offensive piece. They're going to go for another piece to put around KD. KD loves his offense. It makes sense. It's an offensive league. I got it. It is what it is. But adding Bol, that was huge. And I just think that this team is going to be hungry and is going to absolutely show up. So honestly, the Phoenix Suns, it makes me upset to say this, but I have to say the Phoenix Suns are one of the better teams off-season wise. Looking at teams that did not have good off seasons, we could go through quite a few. The Portland Trailblazers, because of the Dame situation, not because of anything else. If anything, they've actually improved their team other than that. But the Dame situation has been such a pullback and a drawback that it is a little bit like, yeah, they've had kind of an off season, if you will, just because of all the Dame drama. Another, I guess for me, another team that has not had a great offseason, if you ask me, is the Utah Jazz. Here's the thing about the Jazz. They did not have a very good offseason last season either. They haven't had a really good offseason the last few years. Obviously, Gobert, moving on, all that, whatever. It's great. I get it. I'm not a Gobert fan. I think he's overrated. I think that was good that they moved on. But what I will say is this: they have not done that much at all within the last few seasons, off-season wise, and I was kind of hoping this would be their season to make some moves for their team, but they did not do that. So I have to say that the Jazz were really an underperforming team. Another team that had a really, honestly, if you ask me, not fantastic offseason would be the New Orleans Pelicans. There is hype that they are going to be, that Zion's going to be back, that they're going to be a healthy team and a hungry team. But because of the last few years, I really needed them to bring a player in or do something to show me that they're actually going to do it. And I don't think they did. So if you ask me, I'm not super convinced about that team, and I'm not super sold. I've got two more teams that I don't think had fantastic off seasons. One is the Denver Nuggets, the defending champs. Call it a hot take, but they lost a couple of their key pieces, and the only reason they won a championship was their depth. Yes, they had the Joker, yes, they had Murray, but their depth is what put them a step above every team they played. So losing that depth is going to bite them, and I don't think they're going to be as successful. I have them currently, my prediction is they're going to finish 5th in the West. I don't think they're going to be that first seed that they were. I think they're going to fall a little bit. And then finally, the Golden State Warriors. Why? I don't get it. I'm make it make sense. Chris Paul, I'm sorry. I don't know why they went down in size. I don't understand some of these teams, especially like the Lakers who went up in size. A lot of teams prioritized going up in size or maintaining their size. If anything, the Warriors went away from that. And
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I think they're going to get absolutely bodied by some of these Western Conference teams. And I know they're going to get bodied by those Eastern Conference teams because they all have those big centers and those big men that are ready to go. So I think that they had a bad offseason. I actually think that the Warriors are going to move Chris Paul by the trade deadline. I think that he is actually going to be a piece that is moved potentially, because I don't think small ball is going to work. And the only other thing that would work is you have Chris Paul come off your bench. And I don't think that the Warriors have a team that is going to be successful like that. So I don't know, man. I'm not sold with the Warriors. I also don't like the Warriors. Maybe that's why. But those are my teams. What about you, bro? Are there any teams that I didn't list that you're like, they did not have a very good offseason?
I would have to agree with everything right there. I am not sold on the Warriors. The Warriors are a huge one. Why the hell would they want to go down in size? Especially in that conference. You've got the likes of the Lakers that have gone up in size. Them going down in size is going to hurt them a lot more. And the Warriors were already not a great team last year. And I think the fact that they did what they did is going to make them a little bit worse. You know, I agree with you wholeheartedly on all of those. You're the big NBA guy in here. I only follow, a little bit throughout the year, but from what like I have read and everything that you've said is strictly on point. So I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, man. I think there might be some teams that we're missing, but moving on to our next topic, it kind of is a little Lakers. I got to talk about my boys a little bit. Purple and Gold Zone, my Lakers show is currently in the off season, so I'm not talking Lakers b-ball, so I got to talk a little. We're going to talk about LeBron because he officially announced that he's coming back. I wasn't shocked. I thought he was going to come back and be a Laker regardless, unless he retired, which I didn't ever really think was going to happen. But there was a moment because of the injury that was claimed to have been bugging him the foot, that is a real possible reason that I was like, maybe he really is considering it. Obviously, he's back to no surprise, but two questions. They kind of go hand in hand. First of all, how successful is LeBron James going to be in year 21? And second of all, with that, how successful are the Los Angeles Lakers going to be in year 20 with LeBron James in year
I
21?
I think the Lakers go as long as LeBron James goes. LeBron James is obviously a huge piece. If he stays healthy throughout the entire year, the Lakers are going to make it far. They might be the favorite to come out of the West. But with that being said, if LeBron James doesn't stay healthy, I think there could be some pains within that Lakers organization to have some consistency. I still think they're going to be a decent team, but having LeBron there, I think, is going to help them in the long run. I do think the Lakers are a team that can win anywhere between 44 and 50 games. The question is, how consistent is LeBron James going to be? Speaking that he is going into his 21st year in the NBA, which is kind of crazy. Yeah, there's a bunch of different question marks. They do have a really good roster. But LeBron James is still as big of a piece as he was, when he joined the NBA 21 years ago.
I can agree. I mean, he is that piece. He's still that piece that polarizes the NBA and the world. I mean, he is that guy. But what I will say with that, he can't be relied on completely as that guy anymore. Anthony
No,
Davis has to step up. I think Anthony Davis, if healthy, could have an MVP season. And with that, I think LeBron will see the whole purpose of the AD experiment was to see if that would match up with an aging LeBron. It did, and then it didn't, and it kind of was gone back and forth. I think it will this season if AD stays healthy. If AD, I want him to switch back to power forward. I don't want him to play center. I really don't. I hope we get at least one more big man. I think we have one or two roster spots open. I hope we get one or two, not one or two. I hope we get at least one, but it would be nice to have a little more depth, honestly, at that position. We have depth at every other position. We don't really have depth at that position. So I'm hoping that we can build some depth up on that position and maybe get a veteran big man and someone with a little more. But without that, I think AD will stay center, and I hope that doesn't happen. But if AD goes to power forward and stays healthy and LeBron does his thing, I think the Lakers could go all the way. But I think there's so many other teams that could also go all the way that it's hard to say. I think it's going to be a great season. I think that LeBron is going to still be on an NBA all team I don't think he was on the third team this year. I think he'll be an all NBA second or first team. I do think he'll find himself up at the top because the biggest reason he wasn't last season was because of injury. When he was out with an injury, he wasn't putting the stats up, and obviously that affected where he ended up. If he plays a whole healthy season, I think he'll be NBA first or second team still. I do think this will be one of his last seasons, if not his last season being first or second team, but I do think he'll have a season like that, and I think he'll put up consistent good numbers, and that will show up in the win column. So I've got to say, man, I hope the Lakers can pull it off. I really do. I'm not going to say that I have them winning it all right now because I can't in good confidence say I completely do, but I think that is a potential scenario for them,
they
and that will be heavily led by LeBron.
they may be my pick to come out of the West.
Man, all
I'm
right,
just
let's
gonna leave
go.
it there.
Let's go. I mean, they are in my conversation. I don't think they're going to have the best record. I think I did a whole list. I think I have them sitting at third or fourth in the West. I do have the Phoenix Suns being the best regular season team because offense and those type of teams definitely win the regular season. But when it comes to the playoffs, I do think the Lakers will show up and show out and be that better team. So I honestly have them coming out of the West. I think it's very possible, but obviously a long season ahead. And unfortunately, Anthony Davis or A Disney and LeMickey, as we like to call them with their little Disney championship rings, A Disney and LeMickey, we hope that they can show up and win outside of the Disney World bubble this year. That's the hope. But To be determined on that. Only a couple more topics left. This one is really interesting. I thought we would run over this one, but NBA players are currently getting mad because the title of world champion was being called out by a U.S. Runner who just won gold and cleaned house at a big world competition. And he was on the mic calling out the NBA and NBA players, not by names, not any, but just saying he didn't understand the title world champion when it's literally just the US. But NBA players were quick, especially Kevin Durant. He didn't even hop on the burner, bro. He hopped on his main and went right away, and a couple other players did. What's your take on this? Should the NBA championship be considered a world championship, or does that not make sense? What are your thoughts?
In my opinion, it's kind of like, the whole baseball conversation because they have the World Series and they're considered world champs. The NFL is kind of in the same boat. Like all these champions in these major professional sports are classified as world champions. And you know what? I don't agree with it. They're national champs because everything is within, these 50 states. There's nothing going on, around the world. It's not like countries are playing countries. So, in my opinion, no, they should not be classified as world champs.
And I'm with you. I don't think, and NBA players want to come down hard on what's being said, but Pop said this in 2016. He said that this isn't world championship. Now I get that we have players from around the world that are representing their countries, but that isn't the same as winning a world championship because it's not every country representing their country. You're still in
Exactly.
the United States representing a US team. So it's not a world championship. I do think that that guy should not have probably said that just because those guys were going to come out and say their thing. But I agree with him. I do agree with him. And if any NBA player wants to come out and say something, just look at what Pop said literally, less than 10 years ago. And if Pop says it, most NBA players will listen to Pop. So I'm sure that that kind of clears that up, just that in and of itself. But our final topic of the day, we're ending with a heavy hitter, bro. Recently, Steph Curry went on a podcast and said that he thinks he's the greatest point guard of all time. Didn't just come out and say it. He agreed. He was asked. He agreed. I think that's a fair take. But Stephen A. Smith came out the following day and said that Jordan had texted him, and he was really dramatic. Stephen A. Smith, TV,
Yeah.
how it is. He was all dramatic, took a couple pauses, a couple breaks, looked at the camera, whatever, made it like it was like national news, a huge whatever, and said that Jordan had texted him and said that Magic Johnson is the best point guard of all time and Curry is the best shooter. I'm going to come out right now and say I don't think that ever happened. I think that Stephen A. Smith is just saying that. I think
He's
that
just doing that to get clicks.
yeah, he's just completely, that's how that goes. But it got me thinking, okay, I thought I'd ask you, man. And I thought I'd ask myself this question too. Do you consider Steph Curry the greatest shooter of all time or the greatest point guard of all time? Let's dive right into it, man. This is our last topic, but this is a pretty big one, so let's hear it.
I'm kind of interested to hear your thoughts on this too, obviously. I'm going to go out on a limb. He's definitely one of the best point guards I've ever watched. He's really close to being the top point guard of all time. In my opinion, he needs to get a couple more MVPs. I think everything will take care of itself. He is definitely the best scorer of all time. The dude is ridiculous. He can shoot a three from way beyond the arc and make it. He's an absolutely incredible athlete. Oh, and by the way, the dude can golf too, which when his NBA career is done, he's probably going to go to golf. He's a freak athlete, and he's small, but he is really good. So I wouldn't really classify him as the top point guard of all time, but he's certainly up there. Definitely the best scorer, though.
My thing is, well, we're never going to see a 6'9" point guard like Magic Johnson. Like, yeah, LeBron James technically plays point. We've seen other players play point, but listed as an official point guard, we're not going to see a point guard with Magic Johnson's skill set at that height.
No.
We're not going to see a player. You know what? This is a not a hot take, but this is a take. A player, that Victor for the Spurs, that he reminds me of a similar type of viewpoint of that position. We've not seen a player like Victor play everything he can do. We've not seen that with his build, everything he can do. He can shoot. That was Magic as a point guard. That was a really bad way to get to that conclusion, but I hope that that made enough sense. That is the same thing as Magic. Magic was that type of player, that polarizing, unique skill set player that changed his position, because Victor is going to change his position. It's not going to be right away, but what he can do is special. Same
Yeah.
thing with Magic. Very special, very unique, very different, and something that deserves its own category of greatness. But Steph Curry is an underrated guard, because when we think of Steph Curry, we think of his three. Of course, we think of that. He changed the NBA with that. But he is pretty solid on defense. He can move the ball around. He can score inside. Steph Curry is an all-around point guard. He is not just a shooter. That is what we think about, because if you look up a Curry highlight reel, it's going to mostly be him shooting threes, and sometimes closer to half court. But that's not all that guy can do. He is a good point guard, and I'm going to give him the greatest point guard of all time, because he's the greatest shooter and also has the skill set to go with it, as the great point guard skill set beyond that to go with it.
Mhm.
And he has the championships. And I think he's at least going to get one more. I got to give him graceful, but Magic is right there. I mean, we see like the GOAT debate. We see that this is not that difficult of a, this is not that difficult of a debate to make a call on. Either way makes sense. I think they're like this. No matter who you pick, they're so close together, and there's no clear-cut greatest point guard of all time overall. But I've got to give it to Curry because of his shooting ability and him being the greatest shooter, on top of his skill set of a point guard beyond just that, and the chips and the MVPs. I mean, he is great. He is special. Shout out to Magic, though. Obviously, Magic is a legend and will be thought of as probably at least the second greatest point guard, probably for the rest of time, because again, we're never going to see a 6'9" point guard again like that. I mean, maybe, who knows, maybe we will, but I don't think we will. So that's a special thing that only comes once in a lifetime, in my opinion. So we saw that, and I don't know if we will again. So I've got to give it to Curry, but shout out to Magic all the same.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you there. Magic Johnson certainly up there. It's a really difficult conversation, because the conversation could go a bunch of different ways. But yeah, after you talking about that, you know, I would have to agree with you. Steph Curry is definitely, in terms of, like, he's really good at being the point. He knows how to direct his players very well, and then he can score. Um, there are a lot of point guards that are good at one, but not the other. So the fact that he's really good at both of those things, I think, yeah, that would solidify him as the top point guard in the NBA, and possibly going to solidify him as the top point guard ever when his career's done, bar none.
And I think that call is good. Also, he's not, Curry not being done with his career yet. I also think it's kind of unfair. Well, I do think his career speaks for itself, and I do think he is that best. I do think you can't really make that call till the career is done. So it's also that's a whole thing, because Curry could win 2 to 3 more championships. I don't think that's going to happen, but he could be way above Magic by the end. For me, he's just right there, if not a little above. But when it's all said and done, he absolutely could be a step above, and no one will maybe get to that point. So it's cool to see. I'm glad we're living in a time where we can watch LeBron and Curry and KD and all these players. If you're not a fan of those teams and you're watching those players, sometimes it's annoying, but all the same, it's great basketball. And we'll cover way more basketball as it goes. We'll also cover more baseball as the World Series gets a little closer. I mean, we're in that time, obviously. It's the clear-cut people are the clear-cut people, so we're not going to spend too much time. But we will talk baseball without a doubt because baseball is still very much active. But this wraps us up for our first official episode of season 3. It has been a pleasure as always. Make sure to check us out on TikTok, Twitter, YouTube. We are spreading across the internet. We're going to Rumble. We're going to another YouTube channel at the Yankee and the Brit. And you can also always find us on Spotify. And I believe we also are on Apple podcast as well now. So check us out. We will be giving you guys our hot takes and our sports knowledge every so often when it works for our schedules, but we'll make sure to be keeping the content going. We have some exciting things planned for this next season. So we hope you guys stick around and stick with us through this whole year.
Absolutely. It's so good to be back. It was nice to have a little bit of a break, but I'm glad to be back covering sports. And as always, if you guys have any questions, don't be afraid to hit us up. We'll do our best to answer them to the best of our ability. And as always, thank you guys for listening and watching, and we will catch you guys next time.